I'm Caleb Ross, 35 years old, Senior Logistics Coordinator at Apex Freight Solutions, pulling in $72,000 a year. Not rich, but stable. Comfortable. I own a house. A real house with a mortgage I've been chipping away at for 4 years now. The kind of place you picture when you think about building a life with someone. That someone was Miranda Carter, my wife. Or at least, that's what I called her until everything turned to ash. We met at a friend's wedding 6 years ago. She was sitting at the bar, laughing at something the bartender said, her dark hair catching the light just right. I don't usually approach women like that. I'm not smooth, not the guy who walks up with a perfect line. But something about her made me try. We talked for 3 hours straight. By the end of the night, I had her number and a feeling in my chest I hadn't felt in years. She was 29 then, a dental receptionist, handling appointments and insurance paperwork at a clinic across town. We dated for a year. It was good, genuinely good. We'd meet for lunch when our schedules aligned, spend weekends hiking or trying new restaurants, talking about futures that felt tangible and real. She made me laugh. She made me feel like I was enough. We got married in a small ceremony at a vineyard. Her family, my family, 50 close friends. Simple, beautiful. The kind of wedding where you actually remember the vows because you mean them. The first year of marriage was everything it should have been. We were both working, both contributing. We saved together, bought the house together 4 years ago, painted the walls together. I remember standing in our empty living room the day we got the keys, Miranda spinning around with her arms out, laughing about how we were real adults now. I believed we were building something that would last. Then, about 3 years ago, a year into the marriage, Miranda quit her job. "I'm tired of it," she said one evening over dinner. "The commute's brutal, and the office drama is exhausting. I just want to focus on making our house feel like a home." I didn't hesitate. "If that's what you want, then do it. We're fine on my salary," I told her. And we were. $72,000 isn't a fortune, but it covered the mortgage, the bills, groceries, everything. I wanted her happy. I thought supporting her decision was what a good husband did. So Miranda became a homemaker. She redecorated rooms, met friends for lunch, spent hours on Pinterest planning projects she'd never quite finish. I didn't mind. I was busy at work, climbing the ladder under the mentorship of Paul Nelson, the director of operations. Paul saw something in me. Potential, he called it. He groomed me for leadership, taught me the systems, introduced me to clients. When he announced 6 months ago that he was retiring early to Florida, he pulled me aside. "You should apply for my position," he said to me. "You're ready. You've earned it." I applied. I was confident. 10 years of experience, respect from the team, a track record of solving problems nobody else could. The job felt like mine before the interviews even started. But I didn't get it. Instead, they gave it to Greg Donovan. Greg was 42, the CEO's nephew, and had zero logistics experience. He walked into the office on his first day wearing a suit that cost more than my monthly mortgage payment, and an attitude that made it clear he thought he was doing us all a favor by showing up. The whispers started immediately. Nepotism, unqualified, disaster waiting to happen. Greg's first week confirmed every fear. He micromanaged, overrode protocols that had worked for years, and seemed to have a special focus on me. Back-to-back trips, Denver, Phoenix, Atlanta, Kansas City, 4 trips in 3 weeks. When I went to HR to push back, they shrugged. "He's your supervisor. If he says you need to travel, you travel," the HR rep told me flatly. So I traveled. I packed my bag, kissed Miranda goodbye, and told myself it was temporary. That eventually Greg would settle in, realize he was in over his head, and ease up. But he didn't. The trips kept coming. And every time I left, Miranda seemed lighter, happier. Like my absence was a relief instead of a burden. I told myself I was being paranoid, that the stress from Greg was making me see problems where there weren't any. I was wrong, dead wrong. The first time I noticed something was off, I convinced myself I was imagining it. I came home from a 3-day trip to Phoenix, exhausted and irritable from dealing with Greg's incompetent directives. Miranda was in the kitchen, humming to herself, wearing a dress I didn't recognize. Makeup done, hair styled. She looked vibrant, more alive than I'd seen her in months. "You look nice," I said, dropping my bag by the door. "Going somewhere?" She turned, smiled. "Just lunch with some friends. Thought I'd make an effort," she answered casually. It was a reasonable answer, but something about the way she said it, too casual, too rehearsed, made my stomach tighten. Over the next few weeks, the changes multiplied. She started dressing up more often, especially on days she knew I'd be leaving for work trips. She'd shower in the middle of the afternoon and change clothes before I got home. Her hair still damp, her skin smelling like expensive soap. She bought new lingerie, lace and silk hidden in the back of her drawer, things she never wore for me. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe she was taking better care of herself. Maybe she'd joined a gym or started a hobby. Maybe the time alone was good for her, giving her space to rediscover who she was outside of being my wife. But the rationalizations felt hollow. 2 months before everything exploded, I forgot my laptop charger at home and had to drive back from the office to grab it. I opened the front door quietly, force of habit, not wanting to startle her if she was napping or watching TV. That's when I heard her voice. She was in the kitchen, speaking low and soft, a tone I hadn't heard directed at me in what felt like forever. Flirty, intimate, giggling like a teenager with a crush. "I know. I miss you too." A pause. Laughter. "He's gone all week." "Yeah, tonight's perfect," she said into the phone. I froze in the hallway, my heart slamming against my ribs. My brain scrambled to make sense of what I was hearing, to find an innocent explanation, to believe anything other than what my gut was screaming. Miranda turned and saw me. The color drained from her face. She hung up immediately, her hand shaking as she lowered the phone. "Who was that?" I asked. My voice came out steady, but inside I was crumbling. "Just a friend," she said quickly, her words tumbling out. "Making plans. You startled me." "You said I miss you," I pointed out. "We haven't seen each other in a while, it's just—" She waved her hand dismissively. "Girl talk. You wouldn't understand." I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her so badly. But the look on her face when she saw me, the panic, the guilt, it told a different story. That night I lay in bed beside her, staring at the ceiling while she slept soundly beside me. My mind wouldn't stop racing. Who was she talking to? How long had it been going on? Was I losing my mind, or was my wife having an affair? I started paying closer attention. The way she angled her phone away when texting, the way she'd leave the room to take certain calls, the faint marks on her neck she claimed were from a necklace clasp, the way her eyes lit up when I told her about another trip Greg had assigned. I'm a logistics coordinator. My job is solving problems with data and evidence. I analyze patterns, track variables, identify inefficiencies. I couldn't approach this any differently. A week later, Greg called me into his office. "Houston, 3 days. Leave tomorrow morning," he instructed. When I told Miranda that evening, she kissed me on the cheek and said, "I'll miss you." But her eyes betrayed her. They looked relieved, excited even. That night, lying in the dark, I made a decision. I wasn't going to Houston and spend 3 days wondering what was happening in my house, in my bed, with my wife. I was going to find out the truth. And I was going to record every second of it. I landed in Houston at noon, checked into the Marriott near the convention center, and sat on the edge of the bed staring at nothing. My phone buzzed with a text from Miranda. "Hope you landed safe. Love you." I didn't respond. Instead, I called Jason Clark, a systems analyst I'd known since college. We'd stayed close over the years, grabbing beers every few months, talking shop about work and life. He owed me a favor. I'd helped him move last summer when his back went out halfway through loading the truck. "Jason, I need help," I said when he picked up. "Can you access my home security cameras remotely?" There was a pause. "Why?" he asked cautiously. "I think something's going on. I need to see," I admitted. Another pause, longer this time. "Caleb, if you're asking what I think you're asking," he started. "Please," I interrupted. He sighed. "Give me 30 minutes, he finally agreed. I sat in that hotel room, hands shaking, stomach churning, trying not to think about what I might see, trying to prepare myself for confirmation of the nightmare that had been eating me alive for weeks. My phone rang. Jason's voice was tight, uncomfortable. "Caleb, you need to see this," he said quietly. He sent the link. I opened it on my laptop, logged into the security system, and pulled up the live feed from the living room camera. Miranda was there, on the couch, with a man. They were kissing. His hands were in her hair. Her hands were pulling at his shirt. They moved together like they'd done this 100 times before, like they knew each other's rhythms, like they belonged to each other. The man turned his head toward the camera. Greg Donovan, my boss. I stared at the screen, my brain refusing to process what my eyes were seeing. Miranda pulled Greg toward the stairs, laughing, and they disappeared from view. The bedroom didn't have a camera. I'd never installed one there because it felt invasive, unnecessary, ironic. I sat frozen for 10 minutes, maybe longer, replaying the footage over and over, watching my wife kiss another man, watching Greg Donovan, put his hands all over her in the house I paid for. Then the fog lifted, and something cold and sharp settled into my chest. This wasn't random. This wasn't some affair that just happened. Greg had been systematically sending me out of town, 4 trips in 3 weeks, constant travel assignments designed to get me out of the house so he could meet my wife in my bed. The rage should have been volcanic. Instead, it was ice. Calculated. Precise. I opened my laptop and started working. First, I researched California recording laws, 2-party consent state, meaning I couldn't secretly record conversations. But there's an exception for recording in your own home when you suspect wrongdoing or criminal activity. Adultery isn't criminal in California, but trespassing is. If I could catch Greg in my house without my explicit permission, I had grounds. Second, I texted Jason. "Don't delete that footage. Back it up. I need original timestamps." Third, I started building a file. Screenshots of every travel assignment Greg had given me over the past 6 months. Emails where I'd objected to the excessive trips. Calendar entries showing the pattern. I documented everything. Then I booked a flight home for 6 a.m. the next morning. I wasn't going to confront them over the phone. I wasn't going to give them a chance to prepare, to spin a story, to get their lies straight. I was going to walk into my house and catch them in the act with evidence so undeniable that neither of them could ever wriggle free. But it wasn't just about the affair. It was bigger than that. Greg had abused his authority to destroy my life. He'd sent me away so he could sleep with my wife. He'd used his position to make me miserable while he violated everything I'd built. And Miranda, she'd welcomed it. She'd played the loving wife while meeting with my boss the moment I left town. They both needed to understand there were consequences. I spent the rest of the night researching employment law, hostile work environment, abuse of power, negligent hiring. I took notes, copied statutes, saved precedents. I researched divorce attorneys, personal injury lawyers, civil litigation specialists. By the time the sun came up, I had a plan. The flight landed at 10 a.m. I turned my phone back on and checked the security feed. Greg's black Audi was parked in my driveway. I drove home slowly, parked 2 houses down, and walked up the street like a man heading to his own execution. The front door was unlocked. I stepped inside and heard sounds from upstairs. Muffled voices, bed springs, laughter. I grabbed the baseball bat from the coat closet. Then I pulled out my phone, opened the camera app, and started recording. I needed 30 seconds of footage, undeniable proof. Then I was going to make sure Greg never walked right again. The bedroom door was cracked open, careless, arrogant, like they didn't think they needed to hide anymore. I stood outside, phone in hand, recording through the gap. The angle was perfect. Clear view of the bed. Clear view of Miranda on top of Greg. Both of them naked. Both of them completely lost in the moment. 30 seconds. That's all I needed. I got 45. I saved the video. Backed it up to the cloud immediately. Evidence secured. Then I kicked the door open. "What the hell?" I shouted. The room exploded. Miranda screamed, scrambled off Greg, grabbed the sheet to cover herself. Greg sat up, eyes wide with recognition, his face going from flushed pleasure to pure terror in half a second. "Caleb, wait!" he started, his voice panicked. I didn't wait, didn't speak, didn't give him time to beg or explain or lie. I swung the bat. It connected with his shin with a crack that echoed through the room like a gunshot. Greg's scream was primal, animal, ripping out of him as he fell off the bed, clutching his leg, his body convulsing. Miranda was sobbing. "Caleb, stop! Please!" she screamed. I swung again, this time the other knee. The sound was worse, wet, crunching, like breaking a thick branch. Greg's screams turned into gasping, choking sobs. He tried to crawl away, both legs useless, dragging himself across the floor. "You thought you could sleep with my wife in my house?" I said, my voice cold and detached, like I was narrating someone else's actions. "While you sent me out of town so you'd have time? I'm sorry, God, please, I'm sorry." Greg gasped, tears streaming down his face. "Crawl," I ordered. "What?" he choked out. "Crawl out of my house," I commanded. He tried. He actually tried. Dragging himself toward the door, legs twisted at unnatural angles, leaving smears of blood on the hardwood. He was crying, pleading, begging me to call an ambulance. I turned to Miranda. She was on the floor now, clutching the sheet around herself, mascara running down her face in black streaks. "Get dressed. Get out," I said flatly. "Caleb, please. It was a mistake. We didn't mean—" She stammered through her sobs. "Get out," I repeated. "This is my house, too," she protested weakly. "No," I answered, stepping closer. She flinched. "It's my house. I bought it before we got married. My name on the deed. My mortgage. You have no legal claim to it. Get your stuff and get out before I drag you out." She dressed in seconds, hands shaking so badly she could barely button her jeans. She ran past me, past Greg still crawling toward the stairs, and out the front door. I followed Greg down the stairs, watching him drag himself step by agonizing step, his sobs echoing through the house. When he finally made it outside onto the lawn, I slammed the door and locked it. Neighbors were outside, phones out, recording. I didn't care. I called 911. "I need an ambulance. Someone broke into my house. I defended myself," I said calmly into the phone. The operator asked questions. I answered clearly, precisely. I came home and found my boss in my bedroom with my wife. He was trespassing. I felt threatened. I defended my property, I explained. The police arrived with the ambulance. I showed them the video I'd recorded. Greg and Miranda in my bed, clear faces, undeniable acts. "I have a right to defend my home," I stated. "Castle doctrine. He was trespassing." Greg was loaded onto a stretcher, still screaming, still crying. The paramedics worked on stabilizing his legs, shattered tibia on one side, destroyed knee on the other. Emergency surgery would be needed. Multiple surgeries, probably. One of the officers took my statement. I was calm, cooperative, methodical. I showed him the security footage from earlier, showed him the pattern of travel assignments, explained how Greg had been using his authority to get me out of town. "I came home early to surprise my wife," I explained. "Found them together. He was in my house without permission. I defended myself." The officer nodded, taking notes. He looked at Greg being loaded into the ambulance and then back at me. "You'll need to come down to the station to give a formal statement," he informed me. "Of course," I agreed. They left. Greg went to the hospital. Miranda disappeared, probably to her sister's place, or a hotel, or wherever cheaters go when their lives implode. I sat on my couch, hands still shaking from adrenaline, and called Daniel Park, an attorney whose name I'd found during my research the night before. Employment law and civil litigation. He answered on the second ring. I explained everything: the affair, the video, the assault, the trespassing defense, the pattern of work assignments. Daniel was quiet for a moment. Then he laughed, not cruel, but satisfied. "We're going to destroy them, all of them," he said confidently. "Good," I replied. "Greg will try to press charges. Assault with a deadly weapon. He'll say you attacked him unprovoked," he warned. "I have video evidence of him trespassing and committing adultery in my home. Castle doctrine covers defensive actions," I countered. "Exactly," he agreed. "And we're going to file a lawsuit against Apex Freight Solutions for hostile work environment, abuse of authority, and negligent hiring. Greg used his position to facilitate an affair, and the company enabled it." "How much?" I asked. "$250,000, maybe more. Depends on how badly they want to avoid this going public," he estimated. I smiled for the first time in hours. "Let's make it public," I said. Greg thought losing the use of his legs was the punishment. He was wrong. That was just the beginning. I was about to take everything else he had, too. 6 months later, I sit in my new downtown condo, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, a glass of whiskey in my hand. The view is clean, modern, untainted by memories of betrayal. The lawsuit against Apex Freight Solutions became legendary in the logistics industry. Daniel Park built a case so airtight that even the company's overpriced attorneys couldn't find cracks. We had everything: video evidence of the affair, security footage showing Greg's repeated visits during my work trips, email records proving the pattern of excessive travel assignments, testimony from co-workers who'd witnessed Greg's incompetence and vindictiveness. The company tried to settle quietly for $50,000. Daniel laughed in their faces. "Try $275,000 plus Greg's immediate termination, or we go to trial and I drag your CEO's nepotism through every industry publication and business journal in the country," he told them. They folded in a week. I walked away with $275,000. Greg was fired, his reputation obliterated, his name now synonymous with abuse of power and moral bankruptcy. He'll never work in logistics again. Hell, he'll be lucky to get hired managing a storage unit. The divorce was even simpler. I filed on grounds of adultery with video evidence Miranda couldn't deny. She didn't even contest it. She had no leverage, no defense, no sympathy. I kept the house, the savings, everything. She'd signed a post-nuptial agreement 3 years ago when we refinanced the house, right around the time she quit her job. She walked away with nothing. Last I heard, Miranda's living in a studio apartment on the bad side of town, working at a call center making $14 an hour. Her family disowned her after the video made its rounds through their social circles. Her friends distanced themselves. Turns out nobody wants to associate with the woman who destroyed her marriage by sleeping with her husband's boss. Greg's life collapsed even more spectacularly. His wife, Diane, divorced him, took their 2 kids, kept the house that was in her name. His medical bills from the leg surgeries, 2 operations, months of physical therapy, drained what savings he had left. With no job, no references, and a reputation as both incompetent and morally bankrupt, he couldn't find work anywhere. A mutual acquaintance told me Greg's now working part-time at a warehouse, making $16 an hour, still limping on legs that never healed right. He lives in a studio apartment smaller than my new walk-in closet, still paying off medical debt. As for me, I quit Apex 3 months after the settlement, walked into the CEO's office, dropped my resignation letter on his desk, and told him exactly what I thought of his company's hiring practices. Started my own logistics consulting firm with the settlement money. leveraging a decade of experience and professional relationships I'd built. Business is good, better than good. Clients appreciate expertise and integrity, two things Apex clearly didn't value. I sold the old house. Too many ghosts, too much history soaked into the walls. Bought this condo instead, modern, clean, mine. I'm dating again, carefully, slowly. I'm in therapy, working through the betrayal and the violence, understanding myself better. People ask if I regret breaking Greg's legs, if I went too far. My answer is always the same. He systematically dismantled my life so he could fuck my wife in my bed. He got off light, I tell them. Justice isn't always pretty, but it's necessary. Protect yourself, document everything. When someone betrays you, don't just get mad, get evidence, then make sure they face consequences. I'm 35, divorced, self-employed, and free, and I'd do it all again. And so, we've reached the end of today's story. Was it what you expected, or did it take a twist you didn't see coming? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below, and let's get a conversation going. If this story kept you hooked, make sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here or just haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to join our community. I bring you fresh, captivating stories every day, so click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. The morning sun filtered through our kitchen window as I watched Chelsea pour herself coffee, her silhouette backlit like some Renaissance painting. 6 years ago, standing at the altar beside that lake, I thought I was looking at my future. I thought I knew exactly what that future would hold. I'm Garrett Mitchell, 36, Senior Project Manager at Brennan and Associates Civil Engineering. $98,000 a year, steady work, the kind of career that builds something real. The kind of career that bought this house when I was 29. 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, hardwood floors throughout. Paid in cash after years of living like a monk, saving every penny, investing smart. Meeting Chelsea Ramsey was like stepping into a different world. I was at a charity fundraiser for the Children's Hospital, nursing a beer in the corner, when she walked up and asked if I was having as terrible a time as she was. That laugh, God, that laugh could light up a room. She was working as an administrative assistant at Morrison and Associates, one of the big law firms downtown. 28 years old, ambitious, talking about maybe going back to school for her paralegal certification. We were inseparable within weeks. Those first 2 years of marriage were exactly what I'd imagined. Partnership, building something together. Chelsea contributed her share those first 2 years. Her assistant job paid $38,000, and she was good with money. We'd split groceries, utilities, date nights. Everything felt balanced, equal, real. Then came the conversation that changed everything. "I'm burned out, Garrett," she said one evening. We were sitting on our back deck, sharing a bottle of wine after another long week. "I hate that place. The lawyers are condescending, the work is mindless, and I'm tired all the time." "What if I just took a break?" she continued, testing the waters. "Focused on us for a while? On the house? On building our life together?" I should have asked more questions. Should have pushed for timelines, plans, goals. Instead, I saw her tired eyes and thought this was what partnership meant. Carrying each other when one person needed support. "Of course," I replied without hesitation. "Whatever you need." That was 4 years ago. The next 4 years unfolded like a slow-motion movie I couldn't pause. Chelsea filled her days with yoga classes at the boutique studio downtown, long brunches with friends she'd met there, endless redecorating projects that never quite finished. I worked longer hours to compensate for her lost income, coming home tired but never complaining. Our routine became comfortable, predictable. Sunday mornings with coffee and crossword puzzles. Her curled against me during Netflix binges, laughing at my terrible puns about whatever show we were watching. From the outside, we probably looked perfect. Successful husband, beautiful wife, nice house, no kids yet, but maybe someday. But 3 months ago, something shifted. The changes were subtle at first, the kind of things you notice but dismiss because they seem too small to matter. Chelsea started guarding her phone. Not dramatically, she didn't clutch it or hide it, but she'd turn the screen away when I walked into a room. When texts came through during dinner, she'd glance at them and smile, but when I'd ask, "Who's that?" she'd respond vaguely with something like, "Just Jenna planning brunch," or "My yoga instructor about tomorrow's class." Why wouldn't I believe her? This was my wife. Trust was the foundation of everything we'd built. Then came the gym membership. "I want to try something new," she announced one Tuesday evening. "There's this amazing fitness center downtown, Apex Fitness. They have personal trainers, specialized classes, really cutting-edge equipment." I looked up the place later that night. $200 a month for a gym membership. I'd been working out at the YMCA for 15 years at $30 a month, but if Chelsea wanted something nicer, we could afford it. "Whatever makes you happy," I told her the next morning. 4 times a week became 5. 5 became 6. She'd leave at 9 in the morning and come home at 2 in the afternoon. "I stayed for an extra class," she'd explain, cheeks flushed, hair damp with sweat. "Then grabbed a smoothie with some of the girls." Every explanation made sense individually, but collectively, something felt wrong. My engineering brain, trained to spot patterns, to notice when numbers didn't add up, started cataloging inconsistencies I couldn't ignore. Chelsea had always been social media obsessed, posting yoga poses and brunch photos constantly. Suddenly, her Instagram went quiet. No gym selfies, no group photos with these new friends. When I asked about it, she shrugged. "I'm trying to be more present," she explained, "less focused on documenting everything." The phone calls started 3 weeks later. Late at night after I'd gone to bed, I'd hear her voice through the bathroom door, low and animated. When I'd ask about them the next morning, she'd explain matter-of-factly that she'd been talking to her sister about family drama. Last night, I lay in bed watching Chelsea beside me, her face illuminated by her phone screen in the dark. She was smiling at someone, with an expression I hadn't seen in months. Not the polite smile she gave me when I told my awful jokes. This was different, intimate, private. For the first time in 6 years of marriage, I felt like a stranger in my own bed. She typed something, hit send, and immediately received a response that made her smile even wider. This conversation had rhythm, history, familiarity. When Chelsea finally put her phone down and settled into sleep, I stared at the ceiling for hours. My logical brain fought with my suspicious one, but the patterns were undeniable. The late gym sessions, the secret phone calls, the constant texting, the social media silence. I told myself I was being paranoid. But lying there in the dark, listening to my wife breathe beside me while my mind cataloged all the ways she'd changed, I made a decision that would alter everything. Tomorrow, during my lunch break, I was going to check our phone records, just once, just to prove to myself that I was being crazy, that there was nothing to worry about. I had no idea that within 48 hours, I'd be hiring a private investigator to follow my wife. The next day dragged by in slow motion. By lunch break, my hands were actually shaking as I sat in my truck in the parking lot, laptop balanced on my steering wheel, logging into our Verizon account. I pulled up the last 3 months of records, scanned through the endless list of numbers, my calls to work contacts, Chelsea's occasional calls to her sister, routine stuff that meant nothing. Then I saw it. One number appeared over and over. Dozens of calls, hundreds of texts. I scrolled down, following the pattern, my stomach dropping with each entry. The first call was 3 months ago, exactly when Chelsea's behavior started changing. Since then, this mystery number had become a constant presence in our phone records. Calls at 11 p.m. after I went to bed. Texts at 6 a.m. before I woke up. Conversations during her gym sessions that lasted 40 minutes. I counted the entries, my engineering brain needing precise data. In the last 30 days alone, 47 phone calls, averaging 18 minutes each, 234 text messages. The communication was daily, consistent, intimate. My hands weren't shaking anymore. They were steady as I copied the number into my personal phone and walked to the far corner of the parking lot. I used a burner app to mask my caller ID and dialed. It rang twice before a man answered. His voice was casual, confident, with the kind of easy charm that probably worked well on married women. "Hello?" he said. I hung up immediately, heart pounding so hard I could hear it. A man. Of course it was a man. The next 24 hours were the longest of my life. I went through all the motions, finished work, drove home, kissed Chelsea hello like nothing had changed. She asked about my day with the same distracted interest she always showed, scrolling through her phone while I answered. "How was the gym?" I asked, testing. "Good," she replied without looking up. "New instructor today. Really pushed us hard." The lie came so easily, so naturally, like she'd been practicing. The next morning, I called Victor Santos. My colleague Jake had used Victor during his divorce 2 years ago. "Best PI in the city," Jake had said. Victor's office was in a nondescript building downtown. He was younger than I'd expected, maybe 40, lean, with the quiet intensity of someone who'd spent years watching people's secrets unfold. "I need surveillance on my wife," I said after the preliminaries. "I think she's cheating." Victor asked practical questions. How long had I suspected? What evidence did I have? His tone was professional, matter of fact. I showed him the phone records on my laptop. Victor studied them without expression, occasionally making notes. "This is pretty clear-cut," he said finally. "The pattern is textbook." Victor quoted his rates. Expensive, but not prohibitively so. "I'll need 2 weeks minimum," he explained. "Full surveillance during her stated gym schedule, photo documentation, video if possible, complete report." "And if you don't find anything?" I asked. "Then you'll know she's faithful, and you can work on whatever's causing your suspicion," he replied. "But Mr. Mitchell, in 20 years of doing this job, when the phone records look like this, I always find something." I wrote the retainer check on the spot. The next 2 weeks were psychological torture. Every morning I kissed Chelsea goodbye, knowing that somewhere in the city, Victor was watching her, documenting her movements, photographing whatever she was really doing during those long gym sessions. I noticed things I'd missed before. New lingerie in her dresser, expensive pieces I'd never seen her wear for me, a different perfume, something spicier and more exotic than her usual scent, the way she'd check her phone the moment I left any room. On day 10, Victor called. "We need to meet," he said. "In person." The coffee shop was across town. Victor was already at a corner table when I arrived, a thick manila folder beside his laptop. "Your instincts were right," he said without preamble. He slid the folder across the table. "Your wife is having an affair." My hands were steady as I opened the folder. The first photograph stopped my heart. Chelsea holding hands with a man outside Apex Fitness. He was everything I wasn't. Tall, muscular, arrogant smile. The second photo showed them kissing in a parking lot. Not a friendly peck. A deep, passionate kiss between people who'd been doing this for a while. The third. Entering the Windsor Inn together. Time stamped 4 days ago at 11:47 a.m. "Who is he?" I managed to ask. "Owen Drake, 38, personal trainer at Apex," Victor answered. "This isn't his first time with a married client. He's seduced at least 3 other married women in the last 2 years. Victor opened a file on his laptop. "There's more," he continued. "Hotel hallway security footage, and the door to his room was cracked open during one of their visits. My camera caught everything." He slid a USB drive across the table. "Fair warning, this isn't easy to watch," he warned, "but it's undeniable evidence if you need it." I stared at the USB drive like it contained a bomb. In a way, it did. The bomb that would destroy my marriage, my trust, my entire understanding of the woman I'd lived with for 6 years. "Take your time processing this," Victor said, standing. "Call me when you're ready to discuss next steps." Document everything. If this goes to divorce court, you want to be the one holding all the cards. I sat alone in that coffee shop for over an hour after Victor left, the folder and USB drive in front of me. Around me, life continued normally while mine came to a complete stop. Finally, I gathered everything and walked to my truck. The drive home felt surreal. Our house looked the same: neat lawn, flower beds Chelsea had planted last spring, the life we'd built together sitting there unchanged. But everything had changed. Chelsea's car wasn't in the driveway, at the gym, according to her schedule, or maybe at a hotel with Owen. I walked into our house, my house, I corrected myself, and sat at the kitchen table with the folder spread in front of me. Photo after photo of my wife with another man, living a completely separate life I'd known nothing about. The USB drive sat there untouched. I knew what it contained. Part of me needed to see it, needed to know exactly what I was dealing with. I plugged the drive into my laptop. The video file was 3 minutes and 47 seconds long. Hotel hallway timestamp showed last Tuesday, 1:23 p.m., while I'd been in a project meeting downtown. I watched it once. Just once. And in those 3 minutes and 47 seconds, I watched 6 years of marriage burn to ashes. But I didn't cry. I didn't break. Instead, I picked up the phone and called Victor back with one simple instruction. Document everything, because I'm about to destroy her. The hotel footage was crystal clear. HD quality, perfect audio, time-stamped evidence that would hold up in any court. I watched my wife of 6 years moving on top of another man with enthusiasm she hadn't shown me in months. Her laughter echoed from my laptop speakers, the same laugh that used to make me feel like the luckiest man alive. What struck me wasn't the explicit nature of what I was watching. It was Chelsea's complete comfort. This wasn't a moment of weakness or a one-time mistake. This was routine. Practiced. The audio was the worst part. Not the sounds of intimacy, but the conversation afterward. He has no idea. Chelsea's voice was breathless and satisfied. He works so much, he barely notices when I'm gone. Owen's laugh in response. When are you going to leave him? Soon, she replied confidently. I'm already talking to a lawyer about what I'm entitled to. The house alone is worth $380. Plus his retirement accounts, savings, I should walk away with at least $200,000. What if he fights it? Owen asked. He won't, Chelsea answered with disturbing certainty. Garrett's too nice, too trusting. He'll probably blame himself and give me whatever I ask for just to avoid conflict. My hands had stopped shaking by then. The initial wave of nausea had passed, replaced by something much colder. My engineer's mind took over, processing this as a problem with variables that needed solving. I closed the laptop and called Victor immediately. I need everything compiled into a professional report, I told him. Multiple copies. Court-ready documentation with photos, timeline, financial evidence, everything. Next, I called Laura Brennan, the attorney Jake had recommended. Laura listened to the entire story without interruption, asking pointed questions about assets and finances. You own the house outright? Bought before marriage? She inquired. Yes, 7 years ago, I confirmed. Savings accounts? Separate, I answered. She has access to joint checking for household expenses, but my investment accounts and retirement funds are in my name only. Excellent, Laura responded with satisfaction. And you have documented proof of the affair? Video evidence, photos, phone records, hotel receipts charged to our joint credit card. This is about as clean as these cases get, Laura said, her satisfaction audible through the phone. Send me everything your PI compiled. I emailed the files immediately. Laura called back within 2 hours. This evidence is airtight, she declared. But here's my advice. Don't confront her yet. Let her make the first move. People in her position often overplay their hand when they think they're in control. For the next 2 weeks, I lived a double life. Days at work proceeded normally, but evenings at home became elaborate theater performances. I'd kiss Chelsea when I came through the door, ask about her day, listen to her lies with complete composure. She'd tell me about yoga classes that didn't exist and friends I'd never met. "How was the gym today?" I'd ask, making it my daily test question. "Brutal," she'd respond with practiced ease. "Owen, that's the new trainer I mentioned, had us doing these insane circuit workouts." She'd rub her shoulder for effect. "But it feels great to push myself, you know?" Owen. She'd started mentioning him by name, testing how I'd react to hearing about the man she was sleeping with. When I'd nod and say something supportive, she'd smile with what I now recognized as contempt. During this period, I was systematically securing my financial position, making copies of bank statements, retirement account summaries, tax returns, changing passwords on my personal accounts. The psychological warfare was the hardest part, sitting beside someone every night who was actively plotting your destruction while pretending to love you. 3 weeks after hiring Victor, the moment I'd been waiting for finally arrived. I was working late on a laptop in our living room when Chelsea came home from another extended gym session. Her hair was damp, her cheeks flushed. But tonight was different. Her eyes were red and swollen. Her makeup was smudged like she'd been crying. "We need to talk," she announced, her voice trembling with what I now recognized as rehearsed emotion. I looked up from my laptop with perfect confusion. "About what?" I asked innocently. "I know you've been cheating on me," she declared. The accusation hung in the air between us like a challenge. I let surprise and hurt cross my face while my mind raced through her strategy. Classic Darvo: deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. Frame the betrayed spouse as the betrayer to justify your own actions. "Excuse me?" I responded, feigning shock. "Don't lie to me, Garrett," she continued, building momentum. "I've seen the signs. The late nights at work. The way you've been distant lately." Her voice gained strength as she built her case. "I know you're sleeping with someone. You think I'm having an affair?" I asked with perfect bewilderment. "I don't think it. I know it," she shot back, crossing her arms with righteous anger replacing fake tears. "And I'm done. I want a divorce." I paused, letting the silence stretch. This was it, the moment she'd been building toward for months. "Okay," I said calmly. She blinked, clearly thrown off her script. "Okay?" she repeated, confused. "If that's what you want, then yes. Let's get divorced," I replied with unsettling composure. She'd expected denial, pleading, bargaining. Instead, I was giving her nothing. "Good," she recovered, though confusion flickered across her face. "My lawyer will be in touch with yours about the settlement." "What settlement?" I asked with genuine curiosity. "Half of everything, Garrett," she declared triumphantly. "The house, your savings, your retirement accounts. You destroyed this marriage with your cheating, and I'm entitled to compensation." She grabbed her purse, her movements sharp with triumph. "I'll be staying at Jenna's tonight," she announced. "Give you time to think about what you've done." The door slammed behind her. I sat in the sudden quiet of our house, my house, and smiled for the first time in weeks. She'd done exactly what Laura predicted, overplayed her hand, revealed her strategy, positioned herself as the victim while demanding a massive payout for a marriage she'd already destroyed. I made 2 phone calls. First, Victor. "Send me every piece of evidence," I instructed. 10 copies of everything, professionally bound. Second, Laura. "Chelsea just accused me of adultery and demanded half my assets in a divorce settlement," I reported. "While she's the one committing adultery?" Laura asked for confirmation. "While she's been sleeping with her personal trainer for 3 months and charging hotel rooms to our joint credit card," I answered. "Perfect," Laura replied with palpable satisfaction. "She just committed strategic suicide." 3 days later, my phone buzzed with a text from Tyler, Chelsea's younger brother. "We're coming over tonight, 7 p.m. You better have answers." I smiled and texted back, "Come on over." Then I set up my laptop, printed Victor's complete report, and put a 6-pack of beer in the fridge. It was time to burn Chelsea's world to the ground. At 6:55 p.m., I watched headlights sweep across my living room window. Dennis's pickup truck, I'd recognize that rusted Ford anywhere. Through the windshield, I could see 4 silhouettes: Dennis, Karen, Tyler, and Chelsea herself. I'd spent the afternoon preparing with methodical precision. 10 copies of Victor's complete report sat on my coffee table, each one professionally bound. My laptop was open, USB drive inserted, hotel surveillance video queued to the most damning moment. 6 beers chilled in the refrigerator. Not for them, but for me. This was my show now. The pounding on my door came at exactly 7 p.m. I took my time answering. They pushed past me the moment I opened the door, Dennis first with his retired cop authority, Karen wringing her hands behind him, Tyler red-faced and aggressive, and Chelsea trailing last with that victimized expression she'd been practicing. "You son of a bitch," Tyler spat, getting in my face immediately. "You cheated on my sister." I looked at him calmly. "Sit down," I commanded. "Don't tell me to." He started to protest. "Sit down," I repeated with absolute authority. Something in my tone, the complete lack of fear, made them all pause. They arranged themselves like a tribunal. Dennis took the armchair, positioning himself as the family patriarch. Karen perched nervously on the couch beside Tyler. Chelsea remained standing in the corner, arms crossed, wearing that smug expression of someone who thought they'd already won. I walked to the coffee table and picked up the stack of reports. Professional. Thorough. Damning. "Before we talk," I announced, "I want you all to read something." I moved around the room methodically, handing each person their copy. Dennis opened his immediately. 25 years as a cop had trained him to evaluate evidence quickly. His face changed in real time as he scanned the first page. Karen's hand flew to her mouth at the first image, her daughter holding hands with another man. Tyler flipped through faster, his righteous anger draining from red to pale white. "What the hell is this?" he demanded. "That," I said with surgical calm, "is a private investigator's report documenting your daughter's 3-month affair with her personal trainer, Owen Drake." "You're lying." Chelsea started from her corner. "Shut up, Chelsea," I said coldly, not even looking at her. I turned to my laptop and pressed play. The hotel surveillance footage filled my 55-inch TV screen. Crystal clear resolution, perfect audio, time-stamped evidence that couldn't be disputed. First, Chelsea and Owen entering the Windsor Inn together, his hand on her lower back, both of them laughing. Then, hallway security camera showing them kissing against room 304's door. Then, the interior footage from Victor's camera. Chelsea naked, moving on top of Owen with enthusiasm she hadn't shown me in years. Her voice clear through my speakers. "He has no idea. He works so much he barely notices I'm gone." "Oh my God!" Karen gasped, covering her eyes. "Turn it off," Dennis commanded, his voice shaking. "Not yet," I replied, my voice remaining surgical and cold. The video continued, audio clear enough to capture every damning word. "When are you leaving him?" Owen asked. "Soon," Chelsea answered confidently. "I'll take half of everything. That house alone is worth $380, plus his retirement, his savings. I should walk away with at least 200 grand. "What if he fights it?" Owen pressed. Chelsea laughed. "He won't. Garrett's too nice. He'll probably blame himself and give me whatever I ask for." "Jesus Christ, Chelsea!" Tyler exclaimed, standing up abruptly. I paused the video, freeze-framing on Chelsea's face mid-laugh, completely relaxed and confident in her betrayal. The room was silent except for Karen's quiet sobbing. I walked slowly toward Chelsea, who had pressed herself against the wall, tears streaming down her face. Not tears of remorse, tears of being caught. "Are you sure," I whispered, "that you want to take half my assets?" She slid down the wall, collapsing onto the floor. "Please, Garrett," she begged. "Turn it off. I can explain." "Explain what?" I asked, turning to face her family. "She came to me 3 days ago, accused me of cheating, Demanded divorce and half of everything I own. She tried to frame me to justify stealing my money. But I've known for weeks. Had her followed, documented. Everything you just saw is time-stamped, legally obtained evidence. I walked to the refrigerator and pulled out a beer. The bottle opener's pop echoed in the silence. I took a long drink, the picture of calm control while Chelsea sobbed. Karen stood first. She walked over to her daughter. For a moment, it looked like maternal comfort. Then, crack. The slap echoed through the room like a gunshot. Chelsea's head snapped to the side. "How could you?" Karen cried, her voice breaking. "How could you do this to him? To us?" Dennis rose next. He looked down at Chelsea with complete disgust. Crack! His slap was harder than Karen's. Chelsea sprawled sideways. 34 years, Dennis said, his voice flat and dead. 34 years I thought you were the best thing I ever did. I was wrong. Tyler just shook his head. "You're pathetic, Chelsea," he said with disgust. "He f***ing loved you." I took another drink. "Owen Drake has done this before," I informed them. "At least 3 other married clients. Your daughter was just another conquest." Dennis turned to me. "Why are you showing us this?" he asked. "Because she came to you first," I answered. "Lied to you. Made you think I was the villain. I wanted you to know exactly who your daughter is. What she tried to do. I can't. I need to get out of here," Tyler muttered, moving toward the door. Karen followed, still crying. Dennis stopped at the door, turned back to Chelsea. "Don't come home," he declared. "You're not welcome." The door closed behind them. Chelsea looked up at me through swollen eyes. "Please, Garrett," she pleaded. "We can work through this." "Sign the divorce papers, Chelsea," I said, finishing my beer. "My lawyer will send them tomorrow. You have 30 days. Fight it, and I release this video publicly. Your choice." She stumbled to her feet, trying to move toward me. I stepped back. "Get out of my house," I commanded. Chelsea left, broken, destroyed. The house was finally quiet. Finally mine again. 3 months later, I stood in my new downtown condo, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city lights, a beer in my hand, and the signed divorce decree on my coffee table. Final. Complete. Chelsea received exactly nothing in the settlement. No house equity, no savings, no alimony. The affair evidence had been so overwhelming that even a sympathetic judge couldn't have awarded her anything substantial. She'd signed within 72 hours of that family confrontation. Smart choice, considering the alternative was public humiliation. The house sold faster than expected. I kept the profit, every penny. Bought this condo in cash and banked the rest. Starting over at 36 with 0 debt and complete financial freedom was liberating. Chelsea moved into a studio apartment across town. 600 square feet, questionable plumbing. She got a job waitressing at a chain restaurant, the first real work she'd done in 4 years. Owen ghosted her the moment Victor showed up at Apex Fitness for a friendly conversation about professional boundaries. Chelsea went from conquest to liability overnight. Dennis and Karen haven't spoken to their daughter since that night. Tyler blocked her number. Her social circle evaporated once word spread about the affair. My dating life started slowly. Coffee dates, casual dinners, nothing serious. I wasn't ready for commitment, might never be again, and I was honest about that up front. Work became more satisfying than ever. Got promoted to senior project manager with a substantial raise. My colleagues knew I'd gotten divorced, but nobody asked for details. Some evenings, standing at these windows with a beer, watching traffic flow through the city below, I think about that night 3 months ago. 4 people had entered my house believing they knew the truth about me. 4 people had left knowing the truth about Chelsea. I don't think about my ex-wife often anymore. When I do, it's not with anger, just clarity. The recognition that some people are exactly who they show you to be when they think nobody's watching. I protected myself, documented everything, planned carefully, and when someone tried to destroy me, I made sure the truth came out first. Justice isn't always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it's just a video, a slap, and a cold beer. Sometimes it's knowing you did everything right when someone else did everything wrong. I'm living proof of that.